Cheating in sprint car racing is a highly debated topic. Tyre doping, oversized engines, chassis tube thicknesses, fuel additives, and more are all ways that teams may look for an illegal advantage. But probably the most interesting and inconclusive area is the use of traction control. I'm not going to explain how it works because I already have in this video right here. And if you haven't already watched this video, I highly suggest you do and then come back to this one. That video link is in the comments. Okay, so what happened? I'll keep this short, but at the season opening event at the Perth Motorplex, the Sprintcar Control Council of Australia, or SCCA, randomly selected 4 cars to run a traction control detection device that they have been developing. And well, after reading these posts from 3 of those 4 teams, you'll see it didn't quite go to plan. To get to the bottom of it all, I spoke to all 4 drivers who ran the device, 3 of which were happy to speak on camera, along with Callum Williamson's crew chief, Brodie Moller. I also spoke with a bunch of other industry people and, importantly, I got in contact with the SCCA, so stick around until the end to hear their response. Before we get into the rest of this, I need to say that this wouldn't have been possible without the help of the competitors, officials, and our partner, Credit One Equipment Finance. Hey everyone, are you in business for yourself? Maybe you own and run a transport business and are eyeing off a new truck or trailer, or maybe you're a tradesman needing another essential tool. Well, here's a game changer for you. Check out Credit One Equipment Finance. They are Australia's top choice for financing for good reason. Whether it's transport, construction, farming, or any trade, Credit One Equipment Finance is perfect for your business. No matter your industry or equipment needs, Credit One Equipment Finance is your go-to solution. They understand that growing your business means having the right equipment and tools, which often requires substantial investment. With Credit One's diverse finance options, you can acquire your excavator, van, truck, crane, or whatever your job demands. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Check out over 1,800 glowing 5-star reviews on Google. That's right, 1,800 and counting. For competitive rates and solutions that beat the banks, and for lightning fast loan approvals, visit www.creditoneequipmentfinance.com.au or click the link in the video description below. Empower your business today with Credit One Equipment Finance. Firstly, I needed to clear up how the device connected to the car, and I wanted to find out how the teams found out that they'd have to run it.
They come up to us before qualifying and asked us if we can put this. They had like a wiring loom, so it connected, one side connected into your magneto, obviously, and then the other side. It just plugged into your mag and then ran, so we had to run the cable along the frame all the way to the back of the car, which then was like another cable which they plugged the device into.
And how big was this device?
The actual box or the unit it gets plugged into actually gets mounted on your A-frame behind your seat. So it's pretty large unit.
And it had like a little screen on it with some lights and some other stuff. But it was big enough. It's probably that by that, I'd say.
How did this device end up on your car?
We went out for hot laps and qualifying, did all that and come back in, and they just approached us at the race trailer saying that we're one of 4 people selected to trial this device, and we questioned whether it would be safe to use and it wouldn't affect the motor, and they said, no, it's been trialled, it should be all good.
They said it was a random 4 cars, and they showed us the car numbers, and then next minute they're quickly bolting this device on as we're rolling out for the first heat. Oh, well, my car was anyway.
There was no mention about it or anything. Like, we knew nothing until they come up to us 2 minutes before qualifying. We're like, hey, you guys are running this tonight.
And so when I put this on your car, and we just said, well, we're literally about to get pushed off for qualifying. Like, we have not got enough time to do this right now. And, as a driver, you're already in the zone, ready to go out for qualifying. In your head, you don't want any little mishaps, while you're in a rush to get onto the track. So he ended up bolting just the cabling onto our car, which was great, but he did not have enough time to actually put the full unit on.
Did you have a choice at all to not run it?
Look, we didn't. I wouldn't say we had a choice. We were all for running it, obviously, because we're in support of trying to stamp out cheating and trying to stop traction control if it does exist over here. But we're obviously in support of it because we're the first people that had it on our car. But there was no option like, hey guys, do you want to run? Like, it was just the sheet of the 4 cars. You've been selected. Like, we're putting this in your car. And we asked them I asked them how they got the 4 drivers, and they couldn't answer me how they got the 4 drivers.
Although I didn't know the details, I've known for quite a while now that the SCCA have been conducting tests, so I was interested to hear how much these teams knew about the testing themselves.
Not at all. I don't know if any other drivers were, but it was little known to me that they were even trialing them. I guess it's maybe a surprise thing for drivers, so they can't change stuff or change out your MSD or something like that. So they just hit you with it on the night. We're not too sure, but I didn't know, previously that they were trialing them or that they were going to have them.
It was mentioned, obviously, a week prior at the media day that the Maddington Toyota Sprintcar Series do, and not much detail at all. Just that something was going to get clipped onto our car, and that was pretty much what we got told.
I heard 2 people that I know, Kendricks and the Chris Coyle, that were running it to test it out. So I definitely knew it was happening, but didn't know they were implementing it. We had no forward sight of what was going on before the first meeting.
All we were told is that it's been tested. I didn't know where or whose car it was tested on. None of those details. On the night when we were talking to the stewards, we got told that it's been tested. When Callum and I asked, has it been tested on a dyno situation? Obviously they said no, it's been tested on a track.
There was no really transparency, Toby. Like they didn't mention anything. That I asked Callum if they mentioned anything at the drivers' meeting. He said no, nothing. Like there was no, not that there should be a warning, but there was no heads up. Like, hey guys, we're gonna do this tonight, and there was no opportunity for the car owners and the people that pay all this money on these motors to speak about it and to discuss it. It was just, hey guys, you're running this tonight.
So Callum and James were the first to run the device in their heat races, and later on, Chris Coyle and Michael Keane ran them for the features. You get pushed off for the heat race. This is the first time you have the device on the car. What did it feel like? And when did you first realize, hey, there's something different here? And when did you realize, hey, this could be the device?
I got pushed off. There was no dramas of the car under low revs, like obviously idling along.
You got push started and car fired up fine, to be honest. No dramas there. And then sort of as you're cruising around and everyone gets started, you know how you sort of get told to form up, and you get to give the car a bit of a burst to form up. And instantly, as soon as I put my foot down, I knew there's something wrong here.
As soon as I put my foot down to gather car speed and to rev the car up, I felt there was a lag in the engine. I felt like there wasn't any engine speed, like it wouldn't rev. It almost like it would just derate the engine. So I couldn't get over 8,200 RPM. And in my 15 years of racing, I've never had this sort of problem. I know what overfueling the car does to the car. I know what leaning the car off feels like on the car. I know when it's not picking up fuel in your fuel tank. I've gone through all these scenarios over 15 years, so I know what it feels like. But this definitely felt like to me that there's a whole new thing happening to my engine. And, like 15 years, this is the only thing I've ever put on my car, and it totally feels different. And straight away, I knew that this device is not actually making my car do what it wants to do. It's not making my engine power the way it wants to power.
Didn't think anything of the device, to be honest. I thought, we've got, first race of the season. Wednesday night got cancelled because of rain. So, to be honest, I thought we've got an engine issue here, but also strange because we'd just done hot laps and time trials and the motor seemed fine. So probably didn't click with me straight away that it was the device, but as we were warming up, it just felt like just flat. Like it didn't feel like a 410. I've raced 360s a fair bit, and to be honest, my 360 felt a lot more powerful than what this motor did. It just felt like it took just a lot of power away from the motor. Like I feel like it's like up to 200 horsepower just got dragged out of the motor. Cars in front of me just left me. Like I feel like I was a straight length to half a lap down.
Towards the back end of the heat race, obviously I knew when I was racing that like I wasn't getting the full RPM, so 8,200 RPM was my highs on my tacho. But what I like to rev to, and me and Brody have been working to for a long time is probably 8800 in heat races or the 8700 in heat races, depending on what you're doing with the cars. So
You're giving us some speed secrets right now.
I know, but I have to so everyone else can see what's going on, which I don't want to. But that's what we like to be at. We like, that's our window. That's what I feel comfortable with, and that's what I like to, you know, do the things I do with my car at that sort of RPM if I can. So this obviously didn't do that. We went into the pits, and as soon as I got into the pits, I got out of the car, and Brody looked at me and just said, "What's going on? Like, we were slow, weren't we?" And honest opinions from a crew chief, obviously, "You're slow. What's wrong?"
When we got in the pit area, I said to him, I was like, "What was that?" Obviously, because we weren't very good. And he's like, "The motor's not running." I'm like, "What do you mean the motor's not running?" Like, Callum doesn't usually say the motor don't run very often,
Yeah.
if ever.
I was like, "Well, I've got some real serious issues with this engine right now. My tacho only says 8200 right now on the tacho. I could not get past 8200." And he just said, "What the hell's going on?" And I said, "Mate, I'll tell you right now, in my 15 years of racing, I've never felt this feel in the engine before. I think it's the monitor they've just put in my car."
We just come from qualifying where we're doing 8.9s and we've lost 1,000 RPM and we haven't changed anything. Like, the only thing that's changed is that device got put on the car.
So straight off that heat race, I walked over to Alan Bain and the guy that Alan Bain had who was controlling the traction detected monitors. And I said to the guys, what's these traction monitors do like to the engines? Because right now mine seemed like it derated my car. And they said, well, it shouldn't do anything to your engine because it's been tested and, you know, tracked with other drivers before when they were testing it years ago or a year ago. Shouldn't be anything wrong with it. And I said, well, I seriously think there's something wrong with it because our fueling that Brody does and we do before racing is fine. I said, you know, gear settings fine. You know, in qualifying prior to the heat race, we're revving to 8,800, 9,000, and we had no dramas at all. As soon as we plugged this in, we had dramas, and they said, you shouldn't have had any problems with this, because obviously I was the first person to walk up to them and tell them. They said, you surely have any problems with this?
But then after that heat race, probably not even 2 minutes after me and Callum were talking, another driver who ran it in the same heat race come up to us and said, "Is your guy's motor running?" And we're like, "No, mate, like, the thing won't rev." And he's like, "I've got the same problem." Like, and he was obviously running the device too.
Did you know at that stage that like he went out for the heat race and ran the device as well?
I didn't know straight away until he told us that he was like, "Yeah, I was running it too." And he's like, "I've got the exact same problem."
Wow.
Before I could even say it, he told me my motor won't pull a number over 8,000. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, look at our tack. Like, the tack don't lie. Like, our tack reads the same thing."
I come in before I could really, didn't even know when they took it off, but it happened really quite quick. Like I went for a walk to watch the next heat and pretty much come back and the device was taken off. And I sort of asked the crew what happened, and they just said it. They'd come and removed it, and sort of that was the end of the story. So to be honest, we didn't think much of it. We started stripping the motor and all the fuel system out of it. We had high speeds out. We had all the plugs and nozzles out. We have low speed out. We had the car in a million bits, to be honest. So that was probably the more frustrating part for me. Yeah, this is after the heat race. So I come in and said to the guys, "There's something majorly wrong with this motor." Honestly, didn't really trigger in my head that it was something to do with the device, but we started stripping the whole car down. We started going through everything. So yeah, obviously the next race was the mid pack, and we didn't touch the car. My tires were still flat and everything. We were hammered down trying to fix this engine issue.
When was the device taken off, and what did the car feel like once the device was off?
So we're in obviously a mad rush. We were going through a whole fuel system, pressure testing everything. I even had other team drivers helping me pressure test stuff and going through their fuel sheets. And it was, to be honest, it was madness. It was crazy. So we just got our car ready and back together for the mid-pack dash, which I was in. And to be honest, didn't have time to touch setup, but we got the motor back together, and completely different car, like back to how a 410 should feel like. They've only got 2 devices, so only 2 cars can run it at the same time. It was my car and Callum's car that both ran it in the same heat, and we obviously had discussions between ourselves, and that's when it sort of clicked that it was the device, because as soon as I spoke to Callum after the heat race with the device on our cars, he mentioned he had the same issue, that his motor was really flat, no power, wouldn't rev. So that's when we sort of approached the stewards or the people involved in putting the device on our cars, and sort of got nowhere, to be honest. We're just arguing with them, saying they sort of said it will not change a car. It's been tested previously. There's nothing to be worried about. But as drivers, obviously we can feel straight away if there's something wrong with it.
Obviously, there's more to the situation towards the end of the night when Chris Coyle and Daniel Keane had to plug it in as well.
When could you feel a difference to the car, and what did it feel like?
It took a lot of RPM, like probably 800 RPM out of what we normally have. So the car I didn't have speed. There was no motor there when I needed the motor, and the track was really heavy. So it would just get buried in the corners, and the car just wouldn't pull out. And it was just making the car awfully tight because of that loss of RPM as well.
All 4 of the drivers, obviously Callum, but all other 3 drivers that were randomly picked to run it actually come up to me and spoke to me, and it was just crazy because they all said the exact same thing, like same thing about them not being able to rev over 8,000. And then I spoke to one driver and he pulled in 8 laps into the feature race to have it removed because of the same reason. And if you watch on Clay Per View, they film where the official walks up after he pulls in and unplugs it. And the next lap he went from the next lap he goes from 15th to 12th or whatever it is. Like, it's clearly for him to pull in and for him to run better after it. Clearly it's doing something.
When you're driving the car, did it click into your head that, hey, I know what this is, I know what the problem is?
Nah, not at all. Obviously, it was only my first race meeting in the 410, so just getting used to everything. Like, if I was more experienced and this was my 10th meeting, then I guess I would have done exactly what Chris Coyle did. I think he did 9 laps, and he pulled infield, and the officials unplugged it. So, and I think it was known to the officials that this thing had been creating a problem all night, and then obviously Chris Coyle come in and got it unplugged. So it would have been nice for ours to get unplugged, but
That's a good point. If a guy's complained about it, you want to unplug mine as well. What's happened since? Did you have conversations with the scrutineers or the officials after the race meeting?
yeah, we did. But they had to take all the devices off the car, plug them into the computers to read them, which they obviously hadn't yet. So they hadn't got the information they needed to obviously answer everyone's questions.
Did everything feel like back to normal once you got rid of it?
Yeah, to a point. So, freaking that got plugged in. We unplug it. It went back to its normal revs, but the thing felt like it had freaking 10 nights on it after we unplugged it. Like, I know I've had a lot of engines get rebuilt. I've had a lot of engines get tired over the years. You can sort of feel like it's not crisp no more. My engine felt qualifying that this thing's crisp. It can rev. It can do everything it needs to do. Plug the monitor in. Done what it done. Got massive vibration through the cam from obviously the unburnt fuel and the 4-stroking of the engine. Then to unplug it and then rev it back up, it did not feel crisp again from unplugging that monitor to the end of the feature race. I just felt like I had lack of power and I did not have a crisp engine. This engine now feels like I've probably got 10 nights on it.
I'm not going to speculate what it does, but I found the motor to run very hot, as if it was advancing the timing. So it wouldn't run past 8,000 RPM. It got to 8,000 RPM and just shut off, like it was just hit a wall. So the motor ran really hot. We obviously, pulled the plugs out and did all our maintenance after the meeting and found all the plugs were, we pulled it when we pulled the plugs out after the heat, which we had the device on, we found a lot of aluminium and that on the plugs, and obviously my temp gauge was really hot, so it felt like it made the motor run really warm. After the meeting and the wash down, we sort of noticed that the exhaust valves had gotten really hot. Not failed, but to the point where I rang our engine builder and he said, yeah, definitely don't run the motor, send it back to our shop and make sure we go through it, because even though something hasn't failed yet, it's most likely to fail.
If you're revving high eights normally and it's only getting around $8,000 and just plateauing out, you can feel that.
Oh, 100%. And my lows were, $4,000, so where they're usually around the Motorplex around 7. Highs are minimums, 8,600 minimum. So it's obviously, it's not doing a small thing. It's doing massive changes to the motor. So that was mine and Callum's worry is, we haven't got enough power. Motorplex was pretty locked down. We needed 100% of the motor horsepower. We needed that whole 900 horsepower. So to be honest, if it was a gut slick track to the wall, honestly, there'd probably be no complaints. I honestly would love that thing on my car if it was slick.
We've done all the motor maintenance earlier today and went through everything with a fine needle and didn't find nothing wrong with ours so far. Most of the people are talking about the exhaust valves and the unburnt fuel, because it was running richer as well. The thing was stumbling off the starts and whatnot. But yeah, we went through our whole motor and it seems all pretty good. So fingers crossed that it should be good.
Our car owner, Carl, he talked to the engine builder, Kenny Mack, and Kenny was just, from what I gather, he was just blown away by it and just obviously knew nothing about it and just said that's not good for your valve train at all. What it did, because obviously it couldn't burn all the fuel because our motor ain't revving, it ain't going over 8,000. So I guess it's not good for the valves, I think Kenny said. So he wants to have a look at it. Obviously, before we run it again, he just wants to make sure it's all good, because we're plugging things we don't know into his motors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a reflection on his work too, right?
Yeah, correct. If something went wrong, I mean, not that it did blow up or anything, but if something of that matter happened, it's a reflection on Kenny, because that motor just come back from him. Like, that was the first night we ran it.
And what did you say a cost of an engine is?
These days, it's nearly $120,000 for a sprint car engine.
So if you've got a damaged motor, what do you feel should happen with that?
It's a hard one to blame people right now. Obviously, I'm in the process of boxing up the motor and sending it back to our engine builder. One of the biggest engine builders there is in WA, and pretty professional one. So he's going to go through it. Sort of see if there's any damage. I'm not going to start screaming at people to rebuild my motor when the evidence isn't there.
Yeah. What do you feel like needs to happen now with the point situation, with the device, and the potential costly situation with your motor?
We don't know what damage it's done to the engine right now. We are talking to Kenny Mack in the background about it. I sure as know as a driver that it's not crisp anymore, and the engine does not, run the same way as it really did in the qualifying that. So we don't know what we're doing.
The points thing, it's been interesting. I've seen a few comments on Sprintcar Hub, and people are saying like they shouldn't be. They should just wipe the whole night for points, which, like, I kind of do agree, because there's been 4 people that have been disadvantaged for the whole night over it. And if it comes down to someone winning the championship by 2 points over someone that had the device on a certain night, then it's not really fair.
I came last on my dash because of, obviously, we changed the setup, we changed different things to try to suit this traction control device that they had on there. It just ruined my whole night, really. And I don't know what you do. Like, it would be great to just wipe that whole night with the points, because it's not just me. James Inglis had a bad night as well. If you look at his night, he he was in the B main because of what happened. And then obviously starting so far back for him, he ended up getting caught in the accident and damaging his car plus his engine. Like it's not fair on myself. It's not fair on James Inglis. I haven't talked to Keen. I haven't talked to Chris Coyle, but it's definitely not fair. But what do you do? Is the damage has already been done. I don't think they're going to change their mind, but it would be nice to just restart it because I feel like we were definitely disadvantaged.
Obviously needs more developing the device. I think it's a good thing. Like, obviously there's a reason they're trying to develop something, because there's controversy of people maybe using traction control. So it's good that they're developing something, but it obviously needs to be looked at further.
As you've previously explained, traction control is going to ruin the sport and racing. So I'm 100% behind trying to come up with a solution and a device, but we've got to do it the right way. We've got to, maybe engage some more teams. Engine builders definitely is as a must, and drivers sort of get kept in the dark, and obviously, maybe not so much teams because they want to win and put it in their cars, but drivers should be more involved, and yeah, I don't know the way to go forward about it, but it's just I can see what they're doing and that they're trying to have a positive impact, but just unfortunate, I was chosen the first night when the track was hammered down and sort of ruined our whole night, to be honest.
Look, I'm not really sure what happens in the future. I mean, I think it's really good that they're trying something and they're being proactive about stamping out cheating and traction control, obviously. But I think they probably should have done, when they plugged it into our motor, I said to the tech officer, I said, look, if this does something to our motor, like what happens? What do we do? And he said, his reply to me was, it shouldn't do anything. And I was like, shouldn't? Like, it's a $120,000 motor. It's not mine. It's not his. I'm not sure what happens in the future, Toby. I think they probably need to do more on it and probably learn more about it themselves and probably speak to people like Kenny Mack or Maxwell Motors, and people that actually build the motors themselves and actually have all the knowledge and have done it forever.
That was what the frustrating part was probably is, okay, we've gone through our whole fuel system from the barrel valve all the way back to the tank. We did everything and we didn't find a thing. Everything was as per the fuel sheet. So when we went back out for our mid-pack dash, we honestly didn't change anything but pull everything apart and put it back together.
Like I said, I'm not on here complaining about it because I think it's a really, really good thing that they're trying to, to stamp out cheating in the sport. But I just wish they tested these things and spoke to the people that build these engines and actually spoke to the people that have, that have all the knowledge and know so much about these cars and these engines, instead of just plugging the devices in that they don't know about themselves, because I was asking questions and they couldn't even answer it themselves. I just wish I know whether they take it to a dyno, whether you can, I'm not sure, but just test it and make sure it's 100% right. It's not going to hurt these motors before you go and put it on $120,000 sprint car motors, like I said. Did it affect our night? Maybe. I'm not sure. It obviously affected our heat race, and if we stayed where we were, we would have started third in the dash or something like that instead of sixth. But I think the thing they need to do is just make sure it's 100% right and make sure it's actually gonna work before they put it on our cars. And maybe whether that being, we ran a practice before the first meeting, and I know there was 18.410 or something like that. Like, I know if they come to our car during the practice and said, hey guys, we just want to try this, we would have been all for it 100%. I know I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone else, but I know everyone else probably would have been in the same boat.
Yeah, it's just a little bit frustrating that, we get told that it's part of the experimental, trialing that they're doing, but, it's at our detriment, which is frustrating in a series.
We do all this testing about it. It's feel like it's the only thing we test. We don't test fuel. We don't test chassis thickness over here. We don't test tires. I hardly ever see them look at wings. I feel like we put all our eggs in one basket, checking for traction control, and I've never even heard of anyone being caught, and I've never even really heard of. There's always rumours of people running it, but that's just what people are going to say when people run good, of course.
So this is all good and well, but we're only hearing the competitors' side of the situation. It's important to me that we heard from the SCCA. I got in contact with both the SCCA president, Jason McIver, and National Technical Officer, Alan Bain. I was really hoping to include one of them in a video interview, but after reading this, you'll probably understand why they preferred not to. Their email response read, "Hi Toby, thank you for reaching out and expressing interest in the traction control detection device. This project has been a collaborative effort between the SCCA executive and SAWA for over 2 years, involving extensive research and testing in Western Australia. To the best of our knowledge, it is the first device of its kind in the world. The SCCA is committed to ensuring that traction control remains outside the realm of our sport, and this device is a proactive measure to enforce that stance." Regarding the recent events at Perth Motorplex, we have received valuable feedback from the teams. We're currently conducting a thorough review of the units with our engineer and other industry experts. At this stage, we do not believe the device damaged the performance of the selected teams, as it is designed only to detect, not alter the ignition system. However, we are acting swiftly to verify that the devices functioned correctly. All the testing done prior has not shown any performance disadvantages or damages having a TCD device attached to the car. We will withhold further comments until we have comprehensive data to provide accurate answers. Until then, it will be readdressed how it is used in competition. Rest assured, the SCCA fully supports the traction control detection device. So, what are my thoughts and conclusions with all this? Firstly, let's not forget how awesome it is to see something actually happening in this area. And also, thanks to both the SCCA and the competitors for wanting to help communicate all of this. Now, in a way, the SCCA had to somewhat surprise the teams with the device to catch them out, but at the same time, was that the best way to go about it? Kind of like a warning sign for a speed camera ahead. Are we trying to catch you doing something illegal, or do we just want you to stop? It seems to me that this may be why there was a lack of transparency. Some teams were part of the testing, yet others knew almost nothing about it. I know I had a lot of teams asking me questions. Whether that's fair or not is another question, but as you heard, everyone I spoke with was all for trying to stamp out the use of traction control. At the same time, the competitors also want more testing before having to use it in competition. And now, it sounds like the SCCA are doing more testing. As for the potentially costly engine damage, will the SCCA say, yes, we have made adjustments to the device? Because if they do, who will cover any damage done to engines that may have been caused by the device? And if they say no, the device is fine, and we have made no changes, how will they now go about convincing teams to run the device after this situation? Again, communication and transparency could probably go a long way here. For now though, it's your chance to communicate what you think. We read all of our video comments and we'd love to hear what you think about the situation, what you think should have happened, or what you'd like to see happen from here on in. I hope you all enjoyed this insight. Head to our socials if you want to connect and chat more, but what I'd love you to do is make sure you've clicked subscribe and also grab your gear over at sprintcarhub.com.